δίπλα μας για το επόμενο θέμα, το οποίο εγώ δεν έχω καμία εμπειρία, εσείς η φαρμακοπία έχετε, ενώ η καθημερινότητα που έχετε με τους ασθενείς, θα ακούσετε μια πρωτότυπη προσέγγιση, τη λέει Convince. Ποιος είναι ο δίπλα μου? Είναι ο Γενικός Διευθυντής της Servier Ελλάδος και Κύπρου. Είναι Mediterranean people, γεννήθηκε στο Λίβανο, έχει γαλλική υπηκότητα, είναι Γάλλος δηλαδή, φαρμακοποιός συνάδελφός σας. Να διαβάσω, έχει μάστερ στην επικοινωνία, MBA, πολυδιαβασμένος, πολυγυρισμένος. Πρόσφατα ήρθε στην Ελλάδα από τη Μέση Ανατολή, εκεί στις χώρες του κόλπου. Έχει περισσότερα από 20 χρόνια. Είναι πολυτάλαντος. Το διαβάζω από μέσα γιατί είναι πολλά. Πλούσιας πολιτιστικής και ακαδημαϊκής επαγγελματικής εμπειρίας. Έχει ταξιδέψει σε όλο τον κόσμο. Είναι ένα ανερχόμενος τέλεχος της Servier. Νομίζω πως το επόμενο θα φτάσει στα κεντρικά στη Γαλλία. Είναι πολύ αξιόλογος. Έχει περγαμηνές για ότι η αριστεία στην επικοινωνία είναι ένα από τα πιο σημαντικά πλεονεκτήματα για την επαγγελματική σας επιτυχία. Εγώ το άκουσα και νομίζω πως δεν έχω ξανακούσει τέτοια προσέγγιση. Δεν θα πω άλλα. Θα δώσω το λόγο. Υπάρχει μια ιδιαιτερότητα. Η ομιλία του είναι στα αγγλικά, αλλά τα slides, ό,τι θα βλέπετε, είναι στα ελληνικά. Την έχει προσαρμόσει αυτά που θα λέει να τα βλέπετε όλα επάνω γραμμένα. I would like to thank you.
Thank you.
And now you can continue your speech.
Thank you, Theodore. And happy name day also.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening. Great. Okay. Thanks a lot for this invitation. I feel honored to be here to represent Servier, and thanks a lot for including us in the program. So I think this is the last presentation of the day. Great. So I have a big privilege to be in front of you today. And just may I ask, how many pharmacists do we have in the room? Can I see? Okay. And what do you do, the other people? I mean, do you see patients? Okay, great. I want to ask you a question, but I need your help with that. Okay. Have you ever tried to convince someone to stop smoking? Who tried this before? Please show me your hands. I need your help here. Great. What did you tell him or tell her? No, I need your opinion. No? You told him no, 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 no? Okay. So, have you ever had a situation similar to this one? When you can tell a smoker, as a healthcare professional, as a physician or pharmacist, that smoking is a leading cause of lung cancer. You agree on this fact? It's a fact. If you tell this to a patient, what will the patient do? He will stop smoking. Immediately, yeah. He will stop smoking, right? For how long? Not even 1 minute, you know. But what do we do every time? Smoking is bad for you, right? You have to stop smoking. Cardiovascular disease. That's what we do, right? But deep inside, we know that he's not going to stop smoking. No? Do you agree with me or not? Great. So why do we do that? In fact, the minute you give facts after facts after facts, you will have this splashing effect. Most congresses about awareness are a splashing effect. Eating fatty food will increase your cholesterol, is bad for your health. And during lunch of a congress, what do you have? Barbecue and fatty food. This is quite a paradox when you think about it. So why do we do that? This is why the topic I've chosen, and thank you again to share with you today, is convince for better patient adherence. To convince of what? To convince someone of something, including convincing this patient to do something. And let me take one more example. You know Daflon, right? You know Daflon? Good. So if you're telling a lady to use the maintenance treatment of Daflon, she will come and you will tell her, take 2 tablets every day for 2 months, take 2 boxes. Is she going to do it? I don't know. Because it looks like the smoking advice. It's facts, this is what's written, and that's what we should do. So very likely, you're going to have another splashing effect. When you look at these observations, there is something that needs to be done, and this something is to ask the question why the patient is not fulfilling and following exactly what we tell him or tell her. Because all what we say is for the good of the patient, right? Stop smoking, you should walk, you should blah, blah, blah. Well, there's two reasons for that. The first one is how long do you focus when someone is talking to you? If I'm talking to you today, if I stop you on the street, hello, my name is John Smith, and I start talking, how long do you focus with me? Give me a figure. Minutes, seconds? How many seconds? 15. Do you think she's exaggerating? Would you focus more or less than 15? What do you think? I stop you on the street, I start blah, 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 blah. How long do you focus? Well, there is a study on this, which brings us back to how the patient thinks or how long they focus when we talk to them. And this study was conducted in Canada starting the year 2000. So in the year 2000, Microsoft did the study, and the objective was to see how long do people focus. In other terms, if I want to make an advertisement for my company and send someone to talk, how long do they focus? And guess what? In the year 2000, people focused on average 12 seconds. So what do you do in 12 seconds? Hello, my name is 123, and I represent 123. The 12 seconds are over. Whatever you say after, what is the other person doing? Thinking about who you are, the color of the tie. Can he stop talking, but I have to be nice because I have to go somewhere? The 12 seconds are over, but that was in the year 2000. They made the follow-up study in the year 2015, and look what happened in 2015. The attention span fell from 12 to 8. So, as early as 2015, we are in 2023, just to remind, as early as 2015, there's scientific evidence that people will focus for a maximum of 8 seconds. Why? Because it's much easier to jump between topics than to focus on one topic only. What is the easiest thing to do before sleeping? To go on Facebook or Instagram, tuck, 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 right? You do that? It's fun. Why? No effort. You don't focus. Less than 8 seconds, less than 8 seconds. No matter how ridiculous the topic is, it's attractive. Why? No brain load. But what is the funny part on this data? That there's enough evidence that demonstrated that a goldfish can focus for 9 seconds. So the bad news I have for you today, that we focus less than a goldfish. And what do we want? We want a slide full of information and the leaflet full of information to be memorized by the patient. How the hell is this possible? And then we ask ourselves, they never listen to us. Well, of course, there's a problem in what we are doing, probably, in this sense. If we keep all this in mind, I would like to share with you something that is yet to be published, but that was presented recently, is based on this data. This is the data that shows, and this is published data, what is the intention of the patient to adhere or to comply with the medication he or she is going to buy. What you see here is the intention for an adherence, and here is the perception of the bad effect if I don't take my medication. You already see it's less than 10. So the patient, before even buying the medication, knows that very likely I'm not going to take it all the time. And if I don't take it all the time, nothing serious is going to happen for 1 or 2 days. This is for prescription products, and it's even worse for us, for the OTC products. What does this mean? That the act of buying a medication is an act of reassurance, but the act of taking the medication is a totally different story. And you can test it. Ask your patients, how many of our patients have excess tablets at home? How many times you will hear, I have some tablets left. How the hell is this possible? Because the boxes are either 28 or 30 tablets. There's not one medication box of 31 tablets. So January, you should be short of tablets. You don't need to have more tablets. How is it possible? The patient is not taking the medication regularly. And I will add one information that is communicated and recommunicated again. Out of every 10 cardiovascular accidents in the world, 1 is due to poor adherence. What does it mean? It means that the problem is much bigger than we think, but nobody wants to talk about it. Why? How would you react when the patient tells you, I don't take it all the time? You will start to judge. That's what we were told to do at university, right? No, you have to take it every day. So what's the best way not to be judged? Not to tell. But the fact is there are excess tablets remaining at home. So when we take this data, let me show you something yet to be published that we did at Servier Hellas here in Greece, and that's something we're very proud of. We couldn't understand the patient anymore. What they say is totally different than what they do, but what we didn't know, what is happening inside their brain. So we did something very innovative. We brought patients and placed these patients in front of patient communication. They were looking at patient communication, but two things were happening. There was an EEG on their brain, monitoring the brain waves, meaning how do they feel, how difficult it is, in line with the eye tracking, where are they looking, and in line with the time. Look what was possible to analyze. It was possible to analyze how do they feel, are they feeling good or feeling bad? It was possible to analyze how much they are engaged, are they interested or not interested? And most of all, it was possible to analyze how difficult it was to understand. So what we are looking for is this, something to make them feel good, engaging, but not difficult to understand. And here you have good examples and bad examples. The bad example, when it's very difficult to understand, they will tell you, all the, what is all the time? I'm too polite to tell you I don't give a damn about what you're telling me. That's what all the time. So very simply, when you look at this analysis, you can tell that what the patient is saying is not necessarily the truth, because you can cross it with what they say, and it was not always the case. When they said, that was great, very easy, excellent, whatever, you look at the data in their brain, it wasn't the case. Which means that the era of just listening to them, what do you want me to tell you? Let me tell you, this era is over. We need to look deeper. And to go deeper, we have to go there, to the brain of every individual in the world. So that's the patient, and that's also us. I'm sure you heard about left brain, right brain, first brain, second brain. This is a non-ending topic. I invite you just to forget it for 2 minutes and focus on a very simple analysis. If we look at the brain of every individual in the world, we can find 2 levels. The new level, which is the level of the new brain or neocortex, and this is the part, the most studied, and that we share with higher mammals. This is the intelligent part or the clever part. But in evolution, it appeared later. It was not the first, it came later. And this is why we call it System 2. So System 2 is the clever brain, the new one, the one that's able to do math and physics, and appeared later, 2, it came second. But there's another part of the brain, extremely interesting, which is much, much older. And this is the old brain or reptilian brain, and we call it System 1 because it appeared first. And this part we shared with most of the creatures, such as reptiles. So why it's important to distinguish these two? Because the understanding of how these 2 parts of our brain function can tell us a lot how we can convince someone to do something. So just to take few comparisons. If you look at System 2, the clever, the mathematic part, if you look at it, it's only 5 million years old. In evolution, he's a rookie, that's a baby. It's very recent. Well, if you look at System 1, it's 500 million, 500 million years old. So we have a senior and the junior. Please keep this in mind because that's important for what will follow. If you look at System 2, it is very smart, but very slow. While if you look at System 1, it is very fast and limited. Let me give you an example. If you are walking in the forest, in the hills of Thessaloniki, right? And you see a snake, what do? You run. For how long? 40 kilometers? How long do you run? You will run for a few hundred meters, right? And then you turn and look and you realize it wasn't a snake, that was just a stick. You start to laugh and you hope, I hope nobody saw me, right? Yeah. So what happened here? You made the decision that is very fast, but limited. Why? The decision couldn't analyze if it's a snake or not a snake. It was a very fast decision. It saved your life. That was System 1. But then, when you had time, you use System 2 to analyze. It's very smart, but needed time. It's not a snake after all. So the danger is not there. My life can continue normally. All the time in our head and in the head of the patient, this is happening. But there is a more important dimension than that. It's the concept of time. System 1, the reptilian one, cannot understand time. It's about the immediate experience. It's now. When a crocodile is hungry, a crocodile will eat. He will not say, I should not eat too much for lunch. Maybe I couldn't have dinner. It doesn't do that. No. System 2 understands time. The past, present, and future. That's what we call strategy. And how do we know that? We know that from one very famous experiment. Very famous. The marshmallow test. You know this one? You should have heard about it. They brought kids, and these kids are younger than 10 years. What is specific about these kids? That their system 2, the frontal lobe, is incomplete. It's not yet complete. So the system 1 is very expressed. And we wanted to see how the system 1 works. So you need kids of this age. They put them in a room with one color, and they gave them a marshmallow, the candy. And they told them the following. It's yours. You can eat it. But I will be back in a few minutes. If you didn't eat it, I will give you 5 more. Can you imagine what happened? That's the worst you can do to a kid, the worst. Look, these photos from the experiment. Look what happened. First, he looks at it. Yeah. Look at the pain. Why is this pain? What's happening? System 1 is telling him, eat it now. It's the immediate experience. And the smaller part of system 2, don't do it. The future, in 5 minutes, you will get more. You'll get 5 more. He can't take it anymore. Why? The dilemma of choice, Don't eat meat now. You don't eat it because if you eat too much meat now, my dear patient, you will have cholesterol, whatever. It's about partying and eating now or protecting my arteries for later. What will the patient choose when you do that? And the pain is over only when the kid eats the marshmallow. Who decided here, system 1 or system 2? 1. So, bravo, because unfortunately, in this brain that we have, system 1 is the system that decides, system 2 is only voting. But whenever we want to convince someone to stop smoking, what do? We give facts. The leading cause of cancer. So we are talking to whom? To system 2. We are not talking to the decision maker. So use all the facts in the world. That smoking is bad, it causes cancer, blah, blah, blah. Alcohol, great. Nobody will change behavior. Why? You're not talking to the decision maker. But if you are able to talk to the decision maker, you can change the world. Do you agree on that or not? Are you convinced by what I said? Okay. So since Theodoros is not convinced, let's do an experiment. Shall we do a test? I need your promise that I want a very quick answer for this question. You agree? Yes or no? Only one agrees. Do you agree or you don't agree? Great. This is the test. I need your immediate answer. Don't think. Just do. Tom Cruise, no? Okay. So, you have a cookie and the candy. The total price, 1.10 euros. The total price. If the cookie is 1 euro more than the candy, how much is the candy? Your answer. 10 cents? You know it. You know it. I can see. 10. Who said 10 cents? Quickly. Great. If it is 10 cents, and this is 1 euro more, this is 1.10 cents, and the total 1.20, it cannot be 10 cents. What happened here? The only answer is this one that you are going to say. Am I right? Yeah. The only answer is 5 cents. There's no other answer. Why did you say 10 cents? Because your immediate decision was based on a system, very primitive, reptilian brain, that cannot do mathematics. Everyone is supposed to fail this test. Don't feel bad about yourself. You're human. It's normal. Okay? When you have time to think, smart but slow, you realize, oh yeah, but if it's 10 cents, the total 120, how could it be? It doesn't work. You see what happened here? So talk to the decision maker that decides, talk to system 1. So just to conclude this part, which is very interesting, if you are to take a message from the system 1, system 2 in our brain, and in the patient brain, this is what we are talking about today, there is a primitive system that decides to making all the decisions, the same that we share with reptiles and amphibians, but there's another system claiming to make all the decisions. I'm a rational individual, I think, but it's not deciding of anything. Married people, you have married guys here. Can I see who's married from the guys? Yeah, you are here, guys. Huh? She's making the decision. But you feel you're the king of your castle, Yeah. You're human, it's okay. So, what do we do now? We are telling them facts, stop smoking, don't eat, don't drink, blah, blah, blah. They are not changing behavior. Why? Because we're talking to this guy. How can I talk to this guy? If you had tools to talk to system one, would you use it? Would you use it or not? Okay, do you think there are tools? Of course, I wouldn't ask the question if there aren't. Of course there are tools. So, basically, the issue is the following. Remember the splashing effect, splashing all the time. We are hammered by at least 5,000 messages a day. 5,000. Between the hour we wake up and the next day, 5,000 messages, radio, TV, ads, medical reps entering your pharmacy, everybody, message after message. The problem is what? That only 1 to 2% we perceive consciously. So we put a radio in the car, we're listening, but we don't realize what we are listening. It's companionship when we drive. Can you tell me today, what did you listen completely on the radio in the car? It's impossible. We don't listen. We just hear, you know. So if 1 to 2% are only perceived consciously, do you know what it means? From every 100 words that you tell your patients in the pharmacy, they will consciously perceive 1 to 2. It's a disaster. And to take it off your shoulder, from every 100 euro invested by pharmaceutical companies, only 1 to 2 euros are effective in delivering an effective message. It's a disaster. Why? This is how it's the case. So what can we do about it? Well, to keep a long story short, there is endless evidence today that there are specific catalysts to talk to the decision maker. And when you see very good and big communicators, be sure it didn't happen by chance. When you see these people who are always able to convince you of something to take, and every word they say you will remember, they know these catalysts. The catalysts are 6. You can see all these 6 catalysts here. I wish we had more time tonight to go through each and every one of these catalysts, but I'll show you one just to share with you how powerful this could be. Do you want to see this catalyst one? And if we meet in the future, if you invite me next time, I will show 6 years. It will take 6 years, you know? So let's look at this very powerful and important catalyst. You have it all over around you, but very few people know about it. Okay? If I tell you today that this is the attention, how much you are attentive to something, and we assume if you are attentive, you remember, okay? So let's suppose this is attention and this is time. This time could be a movie, a presentation, a piece of theater. When do you focus most? In the beginning, in the middle, or at the end? What do you think? In the beginning. Who focuses most in the middle? And who focuses most at the end? Only you, madam? Okay. Most people who were asked this question gave this answer. We focus most in the beginning, and during the course of the movie presentation, whatever, our attention decreases. You agree on that, right? It proved to be entirely wrong. We focus most in the beginning and at the end, and we have no idea what happened in between. No idea, no idea. You will remember how a good movie begins, you will remember how it ended, and in the middle, oh, blah, 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 you know. That's a disaster. Why? Because remember, for how long we focus, how many seconds? 8. And if you focus in the beginning and at the end, and your focus is only 8 seconds, you know what you focused on? Hello, my name is John Smith. I'm very happy to be with you today. Well, 8 seconds are done. And then I give you all what I want to tell you here where you're not listening. And how does it end? It was a big pleasure to be with you today. So all what you remember, that John Smith came, he was happy, and he left. Why did John come? Because he was invited. Yeah. So what's the solution? There could be 2 solutions. Either we make all the presentations 16 seconds only, right? 8 plus 8. Right? Or we do something else. What do we do? How was it possible for Fidel Castro to talk 7 hours at the United Nations and people listen and memorize everything? How was it possible to do that? What did he do? He transformed all his speech to a series of beginning and end. All of it. Sorry? Series of beginning and end. You see it. So the problem is what? Monotone. Blah, 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 and then you do, you know what? The series of beginning and end can be created by silence. It's happening now. Can be created by questions, can be created by reformulations. Do you have the time in your very busy day to ask the patient, can you repeat what I just told you now? It's impossible. You're too busy for that. But if you don't do it, the next conversation will be identical to the previous one. How many patients we have? And every month, every week, we have the same conversation, right? You have that. The job becomes really boring at some point. So if you create the series of beginning and end, probably, and not probably, I'll tell you surely, you will make a big difference. Can I show you an example how this is done? Can I give an example on Daflon again, or I'm bothering you too much with that? You like Daflon? Well, the situation is the following. There is a challenge with Daflon, is that once you have a patient with acute hemorrhoidal attack, what is the problem of Daflon? Daflon works. So when the patient comes and there's a bleeding, can you imagine how terrifying? I'm sure you had that before. The pain, the itching, all the classical symptoms. Of course, you cannot examine the patient. And the worst part, he doesn't want to be examined by a doctor. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in your pharmacy. He knows what the exam is. Nobody likes to do that. So you have to listen what they said. You know one thing, that in less than 3 days, the symptoms will go away. So what problem? The problem is this, that the dose of Daflon is something to be remembered. She has to take 2 tablets in the morning, 2 tablets at lunchtime, 2 tablets in the evening for 4 days, and then 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening for 3 days. This explains why the box has 36 tablets. Fine? I think you all know that part. But what will the patient do? If the symptoms disappear here, and this is what's going to happen, what will the patient do? They will stop. And, oh yeah, I have Daflon. Of course you have Daflon next time, because you will have a relapse. You stopped it, you still have Daflon. This is a big anomaly to have Daflon. How can you implement the beginning and the end, which is a very powerful catalyst that talks to the reptilian brain? This, a pharmacist told us how to do that. Well, very simply, you are here. This is the dose, repeat the dose, everything's fine. I want you to return in exactly 1 week with the empty blister. What is the empty blister? The empty blister is the beginning and an end. It's like studying for a test. And even we heard from some pharmacists that are putting on the box the exact date when to return with the empty blister. When there's beginning and end, no matter what happens in between, it's not important. The patient comes back and the relapse will be much less. And that's the beauty of this technique. Now the question is, now you can say, yeah, this is very theoretical, right? Anyone thinking of this now? You're too polite to say. Only Theodoro said, of course. Okay. I will conclude by showing you the proof that this works. It was documented in a study in Greece on Greek patients with Greek pharmacists. And this study is called the Concord study. And this Concord study involved 1,200 patients with the help of 133 pharmacists from Greece on Greek patients. What happened was the following. These pharmacists were trained on the 6 catalysts. I mentioned only one to you today, the beginning and the end. They were trained on these tips and tricks to do the following. You are trained, but before you start, we need 1,200 patients to report their compliance level. How many times you forget to take your medication, how many times you stop your medication without telling your doctor. We have all the data. And then for the next 4 months, you implement all what we discussed with your patients, like beginning and end, like the other 5 catalysts that we did not discuss tonight. Look what happened. When we checked the results after 4 months, this is the initial level reported by the patient. So on a grade from 0 to 5, the higher the worse. The more they forget, the higher it is. Okay? Look already, the score was already something in terms of what? Stopping the medication, stopping it in the last 3 days, forgetting to take the medication, or stopping the medication without asking the doctor or the pharmacist. After these techniques I shared with you today were implemented, look at the outcome. 24% decrease in those who simply forget to take their medication. 22% decrease in those who forgot to take it in the last months, and 22% decrease in those who simply stopped the medication without telling their doctor. In other terms, what I shared with you today and much more was able to improve the adherence by 23%. If I remind you once again that 1 out of every 10 cardiovascular accidents are due to poor adherence, this is a very powerful tool you have to protect your patients. So having said that, I hope you enjoyed this session as much as I did. A lot of techniques for convincing the patient to be more adherent to his medication, and I firmly believe that the first and last line of defense is the pharmacist. Thank you and have a great evening. Thank you.
Ελπίζω να έχετε πιστεί όλοι σας για αυτά που είπε. Έχουμε λίγο χρόνο, επειδή έχουμε ξεπεράσει πολύ το πρόγραμμα. 2-3 ερωτήσεις παρακαλώ, όποιος επιθυμεί. No, nobody wants to ask you something. No, everyone, we understand fully what you said. No.
This is weird. Thank you. Any comments, objection? Maybe you didn't like something, feel free.
Mr. Evgenidis is the president of...
Well, we can continue if you're not hungry.
Maybe next year in the same year in PharmaPoint. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks
Mr.
a lot.
Ziad.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
It was a pleasure for us. Very nice.